to introduce Karyn Moskowitz, who is a colleague and from the Interfaith Pantry, as well as the Food Democracy Collaborative facilitation team. She'll be talking today about farms to limited resource audiences and consumers. Karyn, take it away.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Greetings from sunny Asbury Park on the Jersey Shore. I'm Karyn Moskowitz with Interfaith Neighbors, coordinator for our BEC, or Building a Healthier, More Equitable Community Initiative, where one of my main focus areas has been on food justice. In the past year, along with members of the broader Asbury Park community, we brought organization to area food pantries, forming a grassroots coalition to share resources, including 13 pantries, small community spaces such as the Boys and Girls Club and senior centers and high rises. They shared carrots, they shared beans, they shared turkeys, but it wasn't enough for us. We took then the next aggressive step of forecasting with the 5th generation local farm, Fernbrook in Chesterfield, to grow for 300 families. And at the end of the season, purchased $75,000 worth of fresh seasonal New Jersey produce. And the result was that every day of the week, one could go to a pantry from Bradley Beach to Long Branch and pick up delicious New Jersey food. And now we're embarking on a bold policy platform that will work to eliminate the disconnect between community needs and state funding. So welcome to the Farm to Limited Resource Consumers, where 4 of our community experts will talk with you about overcoming challenges to advancing inclusive community-based food systems in New Jersey's emerging communities. So let's let the community speak. We will now go around the room to do short introductions, and we can start with Robin, please.
Of an organization called MEND, which is a community-driven hunger relief network focused on increasing fresh food access in Essex County, New Jersey.
And next, Alicia Newcomb.
Hi, I'm Alicia Newcomb. I'm the executive director of CROPS, which is a nonprofit organization in Atlantic County. CROPS stands for Communities Revolutionizing Open Public Spaces, and we have a variety of programs across the county, including accessible farmers markets, urban growing spaces in several different municipalities, paid internship program, produce rescue and redistribution program, educational programming, and then we partner with farmers on a lot of different things in both our farmers markets and CSAs that we run. And our newest endeavor is the Crop Store over in Tanger Outlets in Atlantic City. So that's a cooperative kind of location where we have both half the store is for workshops and educational series, and the other half is for selling local produce, including some of the produce that we grow in Atlantic City. And then we have vendor spaces available for very local, small vendors too.
Awesome. Thank you. And now Shirley. Ms. Shirley, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shirley Kline. I'm the owner-operator of a small fruit and vegetable farm in Stowe Creek, New Jersey, Cumberland County. I work collaboratively with CROPS during the 2022 growing season to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to underserved communities in a mobile market in Pleasantville from July through September. And I apologize, I cannot make my camera work on my computer, so you're going to have to go without seeing me.
One day we hope to see you in person, Shirley, on your farm. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Lisa Specca. With my family, my 2 sons and my husband, we operate a pick your own vegetable farm and farmers market in Burlington County, New Jersey, just north of Mount Holly. And we have participated for many years with the WIC and farmers market senior citizens nutrition program voucher program, and also SNAP benefits. And I think I was asked to join this panel to speak specifically to what's going on with transferring out of paper into electronic WIC.
Awesome. We can't wait to hear about this. And finally, Molly.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Molly Fallon-Dixon. I'm a registered dietitian and manager of community wellness services at Newark Beth Isreal up in Newark. So here at the Beth, we manage a few we have a few efforts focused on food insecurity as a healthcare organization as they relate to the social determinants of health. And so those two main initiatives are our Beth greenhouse, which is a hydroponic greenhouse where we grow about 5,000 pounds of produce annually, which supports our farmers market, which is WIC, SNAP, and Senior Farmers Market voucher eligible, as well as a feeding initiative in partnership with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey and Hillside, our Women's Wellness Pantry, which is a food pantry that serves pregnant women on families similar to a WIC model up to age 5, where we provide pantry staples, diapers, and working with some of our local partners like Urban Ag Co-op, we're able to provide fresh produce to those families as well.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's get right into it. Robin, my first question is for you and Men. So can you tell us about what you have identified as the missing piece in current large-scale hunger relief efforts? So how does Men New Jersey help fill this gap? What have been the key challenges you faced doing this work?
I could be here all day. Thanks, Karyn. So I would say the biggest challenge that even pre-pandemic, we've been hearing for years, is that the traditional emergency hunger relief model does not really focus and prioritize the health and food needs and preferences of the communities served. And what I mean by that is the metric is really pounds of food moved through. It's not about like what's high quality, culturally relevant, fresh and healthy. So what we've been doing is listening to the community, right? So we have a network of 23 food pantries and now 17 community partner organizations that we convene regularly and we seek feedback from. And the feedback we were getting is that the real priority is fresh and healthy food, right? So to address that, we basically have started viewing ourselves differently. Instead of this idea that we just take the donated food that comes in, the boxed and canned goods, and move it through the system, we prioritized ourselves as key purchasers of fresh food and key partners in the local food system. So just to give you a sense, because I think we have to get into the dollars a little bit, the eggs are like one of the hot things that people are always asking for that just don't seem to be consistently available. We actually have spent about $98,000 this year on an egg farm in New Jersey because we really wanted to make sure that the food that people are asking for is available to them. We also are investing in buying farm share boxes from a couple of local food aggregators. So, and then we're dealing with the other issue, which comes up a lot, which is there are a lot of barriers to accessing this fresh food, both at the pantry level, paperwork, time, volunteer energy, and then in terms of the actual patrons that are seeking food assistance, just getting to a place where they can actually get the food that they would like to cook for their families. So the other way we're addressing it is we created a new program called Mend on the Move. It's through our community partnerships. We work with each partner and we do home deliveries with Amazon as our partner on that front. And we also do free farmers markets. So we go to the places where people have the need to lessen that burden that they, have to carve out more time to get somewhere. And so we try and help just do a layer of nutrition ed and food access that's a little more convenient.
Great. And I just have two mini questions before I move on to Lisa and Shirley. And that is, bringing local produce, especially chemical here, and the effect it's had on families, but could you action to this food that's coming from the Urban Growers Co-op and others?
I mean, it's been amazing. We actually had, I wish I had it on my screen to read it. We just had an email that someone sent us, one of our partners, that said there's a young woman and she goes to the markets that they offer and it's the only source of her fresh food. And she's actually lost 15 pounds and gotten so much healthier, and her providers are really happy about that. So I think the takeaway from our perspective is we're not, this isn't like we're going in and forcing this food on people. People want it, right? And so how do we change the system so that it's not so donor centric and top down and corporate driven? And I'm sorry if I'm offending people by saying that, but that it's much more, from the perspective of the individuals, what are their needs and how can we then collaborate and connect and work together so that we're buying in and supporting these local farms, and improving the health of our communities, because that's what people want. The other thing I will say is we're just a piece of this puzzle, right? I'm part of an organization called Feast, which is a network of 10 other nonprofits that are doing hunger relief work. And we just did a sample of looking at our budgets on food spending. And it was $1.2 million among the 10 of us. And these are regional, local organizations. So I would say to the farmers out there, don't overlook this group as purchasing power. And I would say to any legislators, let's work together so that you get more familiar with the work being done from the ground up. Obviously, we're talking to our food bank, hoping that we can work with them a little more closely to get some funding related to local food purchasing, because it already does exist out there in these communities. And I would just say, let's not reinvent the wheel. Like Mark said, it's already happening. Let's work together to do it cohesively.
Right, men. Thank you so much, Robin. And Alicia, I would like to turn to you also to just, talk about your work, not just with the store, but with the mobile markets and other initiatives. And Shirley, you'll follow up after Lisa with maybe think about what does your farm participate and work with crops.
Sure. So I think that the reason that we decided to switch from a regular stationary farmers market to a mobile market model is just kind of what Robin was mentioning already. It's about bringing people food that they actually want. And I think that unfortunately, especially with our, our SNAP and our WIC accessible farmers markets, and we do also participate with City Green's Good Food Bucks program as well. In the first year that we participated with City Green's Good Food Bucks was 2020, and that was the first year that we were SNAP accessible, SNAP authorized. And I think we struggled to hit that mark of the first year our grant was for $250 of Good Food Bucks to distribute throughout the community. And we struggled to get $250 worth of customers spending their SNAP dollars at the markets. And, fast forward to now, this past season, where we mobilized the farmers market, and we were able to move around a municipality. We were in several different neighborhoods for different lengths of time. And we had a lot of really great produce consistently from Shirley, and affordable produce, and also produce that was prepackaged in a way that matched WIC and SNAP dollar, or WIC and senior farmers market voucher amounts. We, all of a sudden we had weeks where people were spending $200 at one single market day in SNAP dollars, and we had hundreds of vouchers being redeemed. So I think it just speaks to what Robin was saying. It's not that people, it's not that people who need that food don't exist. It's not that people don't want that food. It's that the system in which they're supposed to obtain that food really doesn't work. It's we're taking these programs that are, it's taking old worn out pieces of puzzle pieces and, broken puzzle pieces, and trying to put them together to form a modern present day puzzle. And it's just not really working. And I think the way that we see ourselves is kind of something that Emilio is always saying in our working group, Karyn, is the connective tissue. It can't be on the backs of the farmers to redeem those vouchers with customers that have them. And it can't be on the consumer's back to find spaces where they're able to use that money, where they're able to use those food benefits. There's got to be a better way to do it, because how many steps can you expect somebody to take to get farm fresh food? Nobody's going to take 5 steps to do it. It's hard enough for me to fill my house with groceries on a weekly basis, and I have a car, and I do visit farms, but you're asking someone to take a lot of steps just to spend that money. And there's really just better, more innovative ways to address that.
So what you're saying is community-based organizations, we're the connective tissue, we're the glue.
Yes.
And the big difference in your work was the difference with turning to a mobile market.
Yeah.
With the huge growth you saw. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have one more small question for you before we turn to Shirley. And that's just about your relationships with farmers. Just give us a little bit about how did you find farmers, and what is it like working with New Jersey farmers?
Yeah. Well, I can take credit, for meeting Shirley, because Shirley's been working with Crops like pre my entrance into Crops with our founder, Paige Vaccaro. So she's been with the organization for probably 7 years now. But I would say, I mean, of course, Shirley, you can speak to this too, but I think that this was like a really big building year. For a lot of our relationship, like this kind of solidified our relationship as a way, it wasn't just us begging a farmer to come to a farmer's market, which is also taxing on farmers. It is a lot of work for them. We have another farmer that we work with who says, the second I leave my farm, I lose money, so like this was a big building year for us in being able to offer like a partnership where there was a consistent amount of funding going towards Shirley's farm, a consistent dollar value every week or every month that she could rely on, that made it worth it for her to do all of that pre-packaging of the produce and delivering it and things like that. But I also would just say that, the farmers that we work with are some of the best people in the world. They really care. A lot of the farmers that we have partnerships with, I know that was one of the questions we discussed. Why do you take WIC and SNAP? And I would say a lot of the farmers that we know that do it just because they know it's the right thing to do. I also have tons of farm connections and people that have told me that for years, like maybe getting, applying for WIC, applying to become WIC authorized was too much of an undertaking for their farm. But when people come to farmers markets and farm stands and they try to use the vouchers, they take them anyway and just throw them out later, which I know, you're breaking the rules by doing that. But think about the kind of person that you have to be like, yeah, I can't redeem this. I can't deposit this at my bank, but I'm going to take it anyway and let you take whatever food you want, because they're very, human people. I think that's the type of person you have to be, is very human.
Absolutely. And I maybe we'll circle around at the end to talk about some of the challenges sort of mechanically you've experienced, but I want to move on to Shirley and we'll circle back around if we have time to talk about the challenges you've had working with. But the bottom line, as I heard it from you previously, is that often the state will create policies or procedures or platforms without first asking us what it is we need and want, or the farmers. So often a solution will be created, like with point of sale, right? And then...
Well, just really quickly to speak on that, I mean, the application to become... So we're a farmer's market, and that's how we're authorized with the state. Under the WIC program, we're authorized as a farmer's market. We're not a farm, technically. And that's what our designation is with the state. But in becoming a WIC authorized retailer, we fill out the same application as a farm does. So I had to fit 3 farmers market locations, hours, days that they're open, dates that they're open, in a little section that was made for one farm or one farm stand. So, I mean, inevitably that all got messed up. When customers using WIC were coming to our market and showing me the paperwork that they received from their WIC offices, almost everything was wrong about our market. It was the wrong days that we were open. It was the wrong hours of operation. And, I'm not blaming anybody for that, but like, that's an instance where a different form or a different method of authorization for a different type of food retailer would have been better.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And, so this goes to the point of more communication between people on the ground, grassroots organizers like us, and farmers and the state, because everybody, the state wants smooth processes, right? So we all want it, consumers, the state.
And we shouldn't be expecting business owners who are farmers and nonprofit organizations to subsidize these programs. Like, the money's put out there by the state to be used. It needs to be matched with operational funds as well. Because otherwise, all of us on this call are subsidizing those programs for the state when there's undoubtedly money there to make sure that they work.
We could have a whole conference on that. Absolutely. Okay, but Shirley, we would love to hear from you, one of our farmers here on the call. Could you talk a little bit about your relationship with Crops and, what you've seen in the years and this year working with Crops and getting food to the people?
Certainly. To begin with, we were looking at trying to improve the availability of fresh fruits and vegetables for WIC and senior voucher program recipients, specifically in Pleasantville over a 12-week period. And this was a cooperative effort between my farm and Crops. What we really wanted to do was refine the offerings at the markets to deliver local in-season produce that recipients want, with weekly feedback between the farmer, me, and crops, so that I knew what was selling well and what lingered, and we could make changes to what I brought every week based on how it was being received by market recipients. This was a bit complicated because of the mobile market, because we were in one location for 3 weeks and then another location for 3 weeks and then a final location for 4 weeks. And we found that there were differences among those 3 locations and what people were looking for. Some of that was dependent upon the neighborhood and what they were accustomed to eating. So there's some room for working on that in the future.
And tell me a little bit, I know you were making bags.
Yeah, I will tell you about that. I wanted to tell you how this worked. So Lisa produced a budget for me every week. And after the beginning first 2 weeks, when we had an overabundance of things, I think I was a little bit too optimistic on what we could sell. We settled at $400 per week. And like I said, we discussed what sold the previous week. And she also told me the quantity of what didn't sell, because it makes a difference if you only sold, if you didn't sell only 2 bags of tomatoes versus 15 bags of tomatoes. 2 bags I would ignore and just pack up the same amount as the week before. So I made up $5 bags for WIC vouchers and $6 bags for senior vouchers of either mixed vegetables or mixed vegetables and fruits, or bags containing half dozen ears of corn, of sweet corn, or bags of just tomatoes, or bags of just peaches, or apples, or sweet potatoes. And go ahead.
My question is this. So these are $5, $6 bags, because I don't know if everybody knows, the vouchers are in these certain increments, and maybe an individual might get up to just $30 for the growing season. Like, is this enough? Like, are we doing enough for our older adults and our families on WIC, or do we need, and is it worth it? Like, all the administration of this program, couldn't we just get the money directly to you instead of going through this voucher system?
I don't know. I mean, this is a federally funded program run by the state, administered by the state. And it's hard to make changes in law when you're talking about a federal law. It isn't that you can't try to make changes, but we're trying to deal with what we have right now while working at trying to improve what we have right now. Okay.
Gotcha. So we're happy to have the $5, $6 bags, and it's hard to change that state policy, but maybe there's things we can do as a community, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to address some of those things in the future. Later on. I did put a Jersey Fresh sticker on every bag, and some of my bags had the word local on them because they were pre-printed. They were a pre-printed shopping bag. So recipients knew, besides the fact that they had to be New Jersey produced things for produce for the vouchers to be used, they also had a visual image of the fact that this was a Jersey product. One of the problems that we had was the health department. Well, let me see. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to say that one of the benefits for me of this whole thing was that crops took care of all of the interactions between recipients and recipients redeeming their vouchers, and crops paid me. So that made it easier for me on the bookkeeping end to just pack everything up and have crops pay me.
Gotcha.
At a minimum, most farmers in my area of southern New Jersey need to earn somewhere in the range of $1,500 to $3,000 per day at a farmer's market. to make it worth the time and effort of packing up the produce, transporting it to market, unpacking and displaying the produce, staying at the market and selling it, then breaking down after the market is finished, packing everything back up again, transporting it back to the farm, removing the unsold produce to a cooler if it's still saleable. If it isn't saleable, donating it to someone in the area that'll use it, or just plain disposing of the produce in a compost pile.
So it's much easier for farmers to have a partner, a community-based organization. I know I always hear from community members who aren't involved in this work, like, we want to start a farmer's market. Like there would be, people want to start a farmer's market on every other corner, and they don't understand what you're saying. So I find it very helpful what you're saying. And now I'll get back to you at the end. I'm going to circle back around, Shirley, but I wanted to give Molly and the other Lisa a chance to talk. Molly, how are you? Could you please share with us how you've been working to improve fresh food access to limited resource consumers through your Newark Beth Isreal Medical Center? And what are some of the ongoing persistent challenges in your work that requires some unique solutions?
Yeah. So this is a journey that Newark Beth Isreal's been on for quite some time now. We actually started out with a Earthbox farm out on Lyons Avenue, which is our main drag here at Newark that goes straight past the hospital. Lorraine Gibbons is on the call, so a lot of the work that we've done here was her baby here at the Beth. So kind of my point being is that it's been a long time coming and in a lot of phases. And so for anyone kind of looking to do this work, especially in the healthcare space, I think the buy-in is there now. It's understood that we have a responsibility to impact food security, food access as it relates to social determinants of health, but feeling like you have to jump in head first and bring in these pieces that are, exactly like you mentioned, Karyn, people think it's easy to just slap up a farmer's market, but unless there's buy-in from the community and unless there's buy-in from the organization and everyone, you really need to make sure all your ducks are in a row and everyone's on the same page before implementing things like this. So the Beth started out with an Earthbox farm out on Lyons Avenue, which spurred a farmer's market. Unfortunately, we did lose that land space, but the Beth made a commitment to building something more permanent. And so that's our hydroponic greenhouse, which is just adjacent to the hospital here, where we can grow up to 5,000 pounds of produce every year. That fuels a weekly farmer's market that we have on site here. And a key success to the farmer's market has been our partnerships, and additional vendors that we have, local growers, Emilio's Urban Agriculture Cooperative that vends with us, and also working with, some other benefits to really help maximize, we kind of talk about that disconnect between where we can get things like SNAP benefits and WIC benefits, and then getting yourself to a farmer's market. So we've kind of tried to bring all of that together at our market. So that's been a success for us. So we do have representatives from the food bank that are the community food bank in Hillside that are here every other week throughout our market season. And they help to see if community members qualify for SNAP and then can help them do that registration assistance right here on site. So that's been huge to connect families with SNAP. And then we also participate with City Green's Garden State Good Food Bucks. So we're able to, SNAP users are able to maximize their dollars. And then something unique, which we started, this was our second year, the 2022 season. So in 2021, we partnered with Essex County Division of Senior Services to serve as a distribution location for senior farmers market vouchers. That was really huge. Something that we saw that happened through the pandemic when there were so many additional resources happening as far as, virtual SNAP assist, SNAP registration assistance, direct mailing of WIC benefits, but there was really no change to the protocol for how senior vouchers were distributed. Seniors still had to come out and get those at in-person events, which was, obviously dangerous throughout the pandemic and still provides its challenges with transportation. So being able to do that on site and have seniors that can then turn around and shop right at the market that day, has been really helpful to us.
So are the seniors transported to the market or do they arrive on their own?
We have a mix. The South Ward's an older community, so we definitely have some seniors that are local and are able to get here. And then we have some senior centers that are able to do busing.
And do you find that that's one of the biggest obstacles is transportation, or is there something else you're seeing?
you know, I definitely think transportation is a huge challenge, you know, and then, but also when we talk about dollar amounts, you know, we're facing inflation now. We have $5 WIC vouchers and $6 senior vouchers, but, you know, what benefits, you know, how much is that getting a family or even a senior living alone, right? And we see coming up in 2023, there's going to be some changes to things like Social Security benefits, and then the state is supporting new SNAP minimums for families, but making sure, you know, I think when we talk policy changes, some things that would really help both benefit consumers and then also directly to farmers are making sure that we increase those SNAP, WIC and senior vouchers to be something more reflective of enough fruits and vegetables to actually impact your overall health, you know, and benefit your plate.
I mean, I think that was the point I was getting at.
Real quick, Karyn, too, like just to follow up with what Molly's saying, like we're saying $5 and $6 vouchers, but I don't know if everybody realizes if you're a mom who uses WIC, you get $25. You're getting five $5 vouchers, and that's supposed to last from June until November. And if you're a senior, you're getting $30 in that time frame, just once. Like, and they're separated out into vouchers, but that's not a lot of money. Like I've had people in Atlantic City tell us before our farmers market there existed and before the crop store existed there, they would just throw them out because the closest place to utilize them was one town over. But even though there was a farmers market there with farmers who could accept those vouchers, the closest bus stop to that farmers market was 7 blocks away. Like, are you going to walk 7 blocks in 93-degree heat from the bus stop to the market, come back with like armloads full of produce? Probably not.
Or you're going all the way over there for $5, which with inflation, you can not even here in Asbury get a head of cauliflower, which is why good food box, shout out to City Greens and Lisa, is so important, right? That at least we are doubling, you know, if we're, you know, lucky enough to be associated. But also, I don't know, and, you know, my work, I do some work still in Kentucky. The seniors that we work with there were given $20 a month for their SNAP food stamp allocation. And again, like it's not, you know, and we all know that a consistent supply of fresh food every day is what's going to keep us all happy, healthy, and out of chronic illness in the doctor's offices. So, I you know, it's too large for this panel, this issue of not enough money, but I did want to put it out there. And yes, amplify what you're saying, Alicia and Molly. And thank you. Let's see, I'll circle back around, but first I also wanted to give Lisa a chance also to tell us about what you've been doing and how you work directly with consumers and what are your challenges that you found with the system.
Like I said, we are a direct market, pick your own farm, and we also operate a farmer's market. And the folks that come to us with their benefits, with their paper vouchers or their SNAP benefits, they really rely on us. You know, especially the seniors. They're so happy to come in. A lot of times they'll just come once and they'll spend their whole, you know, sheet of vouchers. So they'll spend $30 in one pop, or they might come twice. But we also have some customers that come every week with their $6 voucher and they spend, you know, 20 minutes picking through everything and they go home happy. And, you know, what somebody made the point earlier that I have to process the paper vouchers, you know, hundreds of them every week. They have to be endorsed. They have to be stamped. I have to take them to the bank. They have to count them. I have to record them. And, you know, sometimes I think if I make a mistake, you know, I lose my $5 and the bank charges me $12. So sometimes, and I can call and they usually fix it for me, but it's another, you know, 10 or 15 minute phone call out of my day. So there's been plenty of times when I said, you know, I'm not really sure this is worth it. But the people that rely on it and really they enjoy it so much, I couldn't leave the program. On the good news note, though, I believe, and there's a training next week, I believe they are making a transition to a fully electronic system for utilizing your vouchers. It's not going to be a card like the SNAP cards. but it's going to be I believe, a QR code. So they will have a QR code downloaded onto their smartphone. And apparently the farmers are also going to be able to download an app to accept this and pop it right into our bank account. And they can then spend any or all of their whatever amount they're going to get. So if it's still going to be 25 or 30, or if it's going to be 40 and 50, they'll be able to just use part of that, and they won't be married to that $5 bag size. And I did voice a concern that a lot of seniors, you know, they don't have a smartphone, or if they do, they're not comfortable doing digital transfers of money over their phone. So I suggested that they give them like a card with the QR code on it that they could kind of use as a coupon. And I'm thinking that that will simplify the program a whole lot for the farmers, because we're not going to be saddled with all of this paper every week. And it might also be more flexible for folks who want to, you know, use a portion. So if they just want to use $3 one day, then they don't have to worry about spending the whole $5 voucher. So I believe that they're trying to improve the program, and I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to be much better next year.
Let me ask you this question though. So you have a really good idea here. You're on the ground, you know, listening to the community. How do you get your knowledge passed to the people who are going to make the decision on the new systems so that they work right for us?
I sort of made a pest of myself.
Is that what it takes?
Yeah, I called and I expressed my frustration, and then I actually threatened to quit the program, and I got calls. But it took a little persistence on my part to have my voice heard about how this needs to work better for farmers, so that you're not discouraged and just throw up your hands and say, I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm optimistic that this may be better. Of course, it could be more heavily funded. That would be great. But I also did want to speak to the point that before I leave, that Shirley made about farmers markets. It is very difficult to go to a bunch of farmers markets. It is a huge amount of work. She detailed that very eloquently. And if you don't make a substantial amount of money, and $1,500 to $2,000 or $3,000 is pretty much the minimum to take your show on the road, harvest everything, package it all up, bring it all home, maybe waste some in the process. It really, it isn't worth it. You're going to lose money. It's not a sustainable model for farmers to do that on a regular basis, unless you're so small that you're not making a big opportunity cost in your business. But having this connection between you all's mobile markets, where you're sort of filling that farmer's market, taking it directly to the people and purchasing the produce from the farms, that model is really interesting to me. And I think you're really on the right track. And I think a lot of farmers who participate in this WIC program would be willing to partner if you wanted to reach out to us and say, okay, on a Tuesday afternoon, we're either going to have delivered or somebody's going to pick up X amount of whatever you're going to sell, and then you sell it at your, link into your mobile markets. And that way it gets the food to the people who need it, who have the benefits, who might not be able to come to the farm, might not have a ride.
So it's a way for a farm to build food justice into their business plan, right? We're like the market, community-based organization. We're the marketing arm of the farmers who don't have the time to do the organizing, going door to door, putting flyers, making phone calls, organizing, that's what, and as Alicia said, this is hard work, and we're kind of subsidizing really the work, of organizations within the government, etc. So, but I thank you for that. And we have about, 13 minutes. So I want to open it up to the panelist who is most inspired by this question, which is, we work on the ground and we connect people from farm, connect families to farmers and beautiful New Jersey produce. What are some of the main policies that we could work on together? That might be short-term wins, or what are some of the long-term policies that may take us a decade, you know, and hopefully I'll be retired and younger people will take over.
I would like to answer. In the spirit of everything that Mark was talking about and how he's saying that he didn't want to like reinvent the wheel. And I've heard him talk too in our meeting about, you know, how he's really, really concerned most about meeting the needs of the consumers. I think first of all, I just want to say everything that all of us have done is a big win, a short-term win, because we actually all just spent a season meeting the needs of hundreds of thousands of consumers in New Jersey who otherwise wouldn't have had access to that food. But I think in the long term, I just want to circle back to something that Shirley had brought up, which is, you know, she was saying that like the relationship with crops, and this is a quote of hers that I have heard her say over the summer, was that crops absorbed the risk for her as a farmer. And something that she is a brilliant person and has talked about to me, you know, is this idea of the way that it's set up, it doesn't really work. Does it make sense to build thousands of dollars? Maybe, you know, I mean, it costs us thousands of dollars to start new markets and new places and things like that. Does it make sense to build all these new farmers markets just to give people a place to redeem these vouchers and things like that? And something that she has expressed to me is like an idea for a long-term policy change would be like, what if we change the way that WIC was administered just in general, you know, the farmers market nutrition program specifically, like if you're going to increase the benefits, why not add some more money in there and pay the farmers directly, and then also pay the community organizations directly to make sure that picking up food from the farm, that food gets to the people that are qualified for that. And I appreciate the fact that they are changing the way that the FMNP is for the 2023 season. And I know Janine mentioned that there's a webinar for that next week. There's 4 separate webinars. And I know, Lisa, you were talking about that too, to learn about that change. But I think that, you know, in the future, a policy change to that would be, you know, maybe a pilot program in New Jersey to figure out if that's a better way to run the program. You know, paying the farmers directly might be a better way to run the program. Paying the community organizations directly to make sure that pathway between the farm and the consumer might be a better way to run the program. But something else that Shirley's mentioned to me too is the fact that the Department of Agriculture doesn't oversee the WIC program anymore. It's completely underneath the Department of Health. And that's a little bit, you know, prohibitive to farmers being a part of that program, because a Department of Health employee doesn't necessarily have the experience to understand agriculture. They're not connected to it in the way that Department of Agriculture is. They're removed from it. And so they don't actually understand what the struggles are of a farmer. And that's a big important thing, you know, so maybe another long-term policy is like, we need to explore the idea of reconnecting those departments to work collectively on the administration of WIC.
I like that idea. I like breaking down barriers between departments. Robin, do you have
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts.
weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to point out, I'm not sure this is going to be a policy change anytime soon, but we do hear anecdotally that there's a lot of concern and fear for enrolling in SNAP because we deal with a lot of undocumented folks. And so, you know, sometimes I have people come to me and say, well, isn't SNAP the solution? I say, yes, it is for people that, you know, are eligible for it. It's helpful. But so I would say because in Essex County, the population is changing, and I think this is something that is kind of overlooked a fair amount. So I would say that is a growing population that could use some additional support. And then I would say, not necessarily a policy, but a proposal. You know, earlier this year during COVID, New Jersey did this Sustain and Serve program, which was funding to organizations to buy prepared food from local restaurants to keep those restaurants in business. I would advocate that we should extend this program for farm purchasing, right? Give, you know, nonprofit organizations some funding so that they can continue to be good, you know, purchasers. Obviously, we have donors contributing to our cause, but we would love to have some government support for that as well, so that we can continue this work.
I'd like to comment on one thing too. This is Shirley.
Yes, please, Shirley.
In the spring, I had a CSA with at the Linwood Farmers Market with crops, and I had a woman who had EBT benefits come and ask me if she could use her EBT benefits to join my CSA. I didn't know, but I told her I'd try and see if we could make it work. And when I got a hold of Lisa that same morning, I talked to her about it, and we wanted to make it work, and we made it work. But the problem with the ET benefits for the farmer is that they can only be paid out at certain times, at certain intervals in the period of time that the CSA ran, which was 10 weeks. So I think there were 2 or 3 times that EBT was charged for it. That's a tremendous burden for the farmer, but Crops took this over, and we were actually able to make it work that way, that every week I delivered CSA share to her, and Crops gave me the money at the end of the 10-week period. So I didn't have any risk. I knew the money was coming to me, and I didn't have the bookkeeping problem. But the woman was able to get food every week. She could rely on that. And I have mentioned to the chairman of the agriculture of the Assembly, New Jersey Assembly Agriculture Committee, about this idea of perhaps we could do some kind of an amended CSA model for people who are eligible to get fresh fruits and vegetables every week or every other week over the growing season.
And Shirley, I'm going to be coming to visit you and Alicia in the next month or so to talk more about that, because that's exactly the initiative that I spearheaded for 15 years in Kentucky, where 700 families use their SNAP benefits, or if they're not on SNAP, their credit cards on a sliding scale to get a share or a box every other week. So it's definitely possible. And I would love to work with you and Lisa on that. And you be, it sounds like you're the perfect farmer for that, because you care and your food is beautiful.
I also just want to point out the greatness of that. It was awesome. We ran the card as often as the SNAP program allowed us to run the card. But the two themes that came up with that is the point of a CSA is a farmer gets paid up front. The point of a CSA is that a farmer knows how much food to grow in the wintertime. They have that plan decided upon for the upcoming year. So, the important part there was that she was still able to, even though she wasn't, because of the way that SNAP is run, she physically wasn't able to get that money up front. She knew, because she was working with us, that she would still get that money for the CSA shares. And I also want to shout out again to City Green, because I double checked with Lisa during that season, during this past season, the CSA shares, the amounts that the individual was paying upfront for these CSA shares, because she was doing it at the farmers market as well, we were able to match that with good food bucks. So not only was she getting, the full, I forget exactly what the amount was, it was $100 something, maybe $200, the whole CSA share itself, she was also matched that in good food bucks to spend for the rest of the summer at our farmers markets. That's a really big deal to somebody. That could be, the amount of money they spend on produce all summer long. But the other thing that I wanted to point out too, really quickly, was there was a question in the chat while we were talking about this, and it said, WIC families also get monthly cash value benefits for fruits and vegetables in addition to the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program benefits. Farmers need to apply to be eligible to redeem CVBs. It was my experience in becoming authorized for accepting WIC at our farmers markets that the application is one and the same. So when you're WIC authorized, you're authorized just across the board. We were authorized to accept the cash value benefit WIC benefits as well, but that was put on an electronic debit card this year. So because we were not one of the 14 retailers who received those POS systems, I had to turn WIC customers away from the market when they were trying to use their electronic debit card, because we were not an authorized retailer who was given the POS system to run WIC debit cards this year. So that was kind of the gap, and a real big issue with the WIC program this year was that the vouchers, the farmers market nutrition vouchers, were stayed paper. The classic benefits, the CVB benefits, became digital or became electronic. So that was, there was a big disconnect there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And we only have about 2 minutes. And if there is a burning question from one of our participants that we can answer, or if not, if one of the panelists has any other policy considerations, I don't see any questions coming in the Q&A.
I'm just
really,
gonna
but I did
jump
want
on.
to.
I just want to jump 30 seconds,
Yeah,
Karyn.
Molly,
I just want to jump on what Alicia mentioned, that difference between the CVV vouchers and the paper vouchers, and how it requires you as a farmer or a farmer's market to get this whole new POS system. And then that POS system is not synced with SNAP. So when we're talking about policy change, just recognizing that there's an overlap with markets and farmers that are serving this community. Are there ways that we can streamline by combining WIC and SNAP, the POS machines, just to streamline it for everyone?
Thank you. Okay, so this has been really fun for me. I hope it's been interesting and fruitful for everyone involved. And I wanted to now just give a shout out to the next panel. I'm really looking forward to this, the No Land, No Farmers, No Food panel, Creative Solutions to Land and Capital Access for New Jersey farmers at all scales. It's going to be facilitated by my colleague Emilio. And on the panel will be Meredith Taylor from Rutgers, Eric Derby from the Food Shed Alliance, Jeffrey Everett from Rutgers, and Micaiah Hall from Freehaven Farms. Take it away.
Really quickly, Karyn, can I just make one quick announcement? I'm going to try to put my email in the question and answer chat, but there's a program right now. It's called the program you and I were talking about, Karyn, the Local Food for Schools program.
Yes,
and there's
please.
$5 million available and distributed to 600 school districts across the state. And as of right now, all you have to do is the school district just has to sign a letter to accept that money, and it can be spent on New Jersey grown produce, but also other items like eggs, dairy, homemade pasta, locally produced items. And all the school has to do is get their business administrator to sign the letter. Only 200 of those schools have signed the letter so far. So if you can find my email somewhere in the question and answer, chat, get in touch with me, get in touch with Karyn. We can give you the list. We can show you so that you can search and see whether a school district local to you exists. I've been trying to call every school district in Atlantic County the last couple of days to get them to sign their letters. Just an FYI, it's more money that could go towards farmers.
And Lisa, before I turn it over to Emilio and to the panel, Nicole Broadwater from the Department of Agriculture is here, and she's going to be presenting on that program. So she can add more context into that. And I just want to ask thank you, panel one, if you could just turn off your cameras, and the folks on the current panel, No Land, No Farmers, No Food, you can turn on your cameras, and so then we can just focus.